This is your chiropractic one. We're on for PC.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. And thank you for joining us for the Municipality of Monroeville Citizens Night, following by the council work session. As you can see, Mayor Cinco is not here unless he got his hair color changed. He's attending an Allegheny County Boroughs Association meeting. Today is May 3rd and approximately 7:30 p.m. And would you kindly rise for the Lord's Prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We had, can you hear me now? Is that better?
Volume up.
Council had executive sessions conducted on April 17th, 18th, 19th, 25th, and May 2nd to discuss the hiring of the municipal manager. No official action was taken by council. We would now begin with our public input. However, I believe a lot of people are here with regard to the timbering, and council itself has some issues at first that we'd like to discuss, and you're more than welcome to express any comments you may have, but if you wouldn't mind handing it over to us to begin, maybe that'll answer some questions for you. So first, I'd like to ask Paul the status.
Status of,
Why don't you give us a history and tell us why this is before council?
sure. The Planning Commission met, get the day of the Planning Commission meeting. Last 18th, to consider the timbering application of the Point Circle Association, and I'll just read the entrance to it here. It says a major timbering harvesting operation application 12-1 TIM of Point Circle Association concerning property located southwest of Point Circle Drive on parcel block and lot 1108-E-232 to perform a select timber harvesting operation on a 29.54 acre parcel. That was in front of the Planning Commission again last month. The Planning Commission had made a recommendation to table the application because part of the application, there's two specific waivers associated with the application that are waivers that the Point Circle Association are looking to get a waiver from municipal council. Council is the body that grants waivers to the timber harvesting ordinance. The Planning Commission made a motion to table the application until municipal council made a decision on those waivers, and they wished to come back to the Planning Commission after the waivers were under consideration from council.
So are we here simply to consider the waivers, or are we here to consider the timber harvesting?
Well, after the meeting, the next morning, I spoke with Mr. Dice about this because obviously it was an odd scenario. And I brought it to his attention that, the Planning Commission had tabled it. They wanted a decision made on the waivers from council, then back to the Planning Commission, asked him his opinion on what should happen. Obviously, in order for the waivers to be heard in front of council, I have to advertise it as the whole application. Now, whether council decides just to take a position on the waivers or the application, that's up to council.
Somebody asking me?
I'm asking. Legal opinion. I guess, I don't understand. Maybe you can
Okay,
explain it to me.
sure.
But if something's tabled, my understanding was it wasn't tabled to go to council. It was tabled for Planning Commission to get some more information. So I'd like that clarified and get a legal opinion on that, because I want to make sure this body does not do something
Well,
that should be.
just before Bruce starts, I watched the video again this morning down on TV 15, and Ed Deal's motion was to table the application until municipal council made a decision on the waivers.
That was seconded and voted upon.
Yes.
I have a question from that. Are you then saying that you're tabling because I reviewed the same thing. I watched it this afternoon. And I heard that it sounded like because or until. In other words, there were conditions. And this is a legal question. Is that a tabling with conditions? And if so, is that in order?
Well, it's not in order. The Planning Commission is a recommending body. That's their function. And if they should either, they certainly can table an application to take further testimony, get further inquiry, more engineering studies, whatever it is. But they have to act on it before you can act on it. They can't send the matter to you and have you act first on waivers, and then send it back to them to vote on it, and then send it back to you again to vote on it. It doesn't work that way. Have we ever done that, Paul?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, and that's right. What happens is, the Planning Commission should be acting on it after they've satisfied themselves through whatever tablings that they might want to go through, to determine whether or not they should be making a recommendation to you as to whether or not you would approve or disapprove those waivers. And then you, the governing body, act on it. You're the final acting body. They're only merely a recommending body. So it's out of order to have you act first on the waivers.
Well, I have even a more basic question. Is it out of order to table with a condition?
It is.
All right.
It should, unless they're saying, as long as they table it, they continue to maintain jurisdiction over it. They don't get to move it up to us, up to you. And the tabling with conditions is a nullity. They have to act. They either act to approve or disapprove. They certainly, as I said, can't table for additional information, but it's ultimately their responsibility to make a recommendation to you. That's where we're at. They haven't done that yet. This process, if you did it the way the Planning Commission is suggesting, it would come to you and you guys would act on the two waivers. Then you would send it back to the Planning Commission to act on whether or not they're going to recommend the project?
Well, I would have a hard time understanding how to judge a waiver when I don't understand all the information.
Right. And I think that's what they should be studying, and they should be making an educated decision to you on a position as to whether or not to.
With their
grant-
recommendations.
Yeah, either.
In the conditional
recommend to
use-
Grant the waiver or deny the waiver.
The conditional use would be granted on the basis of the fact that we would then approve or deny the waivers.
That's right.
So at
But it would
this-
be based on their recommendation.
So at this point,
Mr. Herbert, it's not a conditional use application, though.
It's not a conditional use.
No, sir. It's a
Okay.
timbering application, it's not a conditional use.
Okay.
But we would be seeking
But we
their,
would still approve it based on whether we approve the waivers or not.
and we would be seeking their advice on that.
Right, I mean, once it comes to us from them, we would ultimately vote on it based on, they would send it to us with a recommendation, yes or no.
Yeah, yes
With
or
the-
no, or with conditions.
Correct. And that's the typical way this works.
That's correct. But again, it's not a conditional use application.
Okay.
It's not associated with the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
It's a standalone ordinance.
So Bruce, would your recommendation be to send it back?
Oh, there's no
We
question.
should-
It's completely out of order for you to hear this.
so we will not be, I mean, you can make your comments if you, it's public, it's Citizens Night, you're permitted to, but we will not be addressing that. So we just remove it from our agenda?
Yeah, and let me say that this doesn't end it. What we're saying is that it will go back to the Planning Commission, and they have to generate a recommendation to council. And they have to recommend either we approve or disapprove these waivers. And then council will then hold another proceeding at a later date to act upon the waivers, whether or not to approve or disapprove the waivers, and the application in a whole.
And Mr. Hughes, just to clarify something as well, with conditional use applications, and I know that you've already stated this isn't a conditional use, but with conditional use applications, we typically, when they table and ask for the applicant to waive time limits, because conditional use applications, 90 days after the application has been, through its first public hearing, is deemed approved if no action is taken. Does that apply here, or do they have to wait until they come to council before time limits are enacted? And now that this is on our consent agenda that we're going to take it off, does that cause any issues relative to this? And Bruce, you might need to comment on that issue.
Yes, I mean, you're correct with the conditional use application, because once that is heard at the planning commission, the clock starts ticking. There is a section in the timber ordinance that does talk about that time frame, and I'll read it to you. Action shall be taken by council either approving or disapproving of any application for major harvesting operation within 60 days from the date of the first council meeting at which the application first appeared as on agenda items. Council may attach such conditions as they deem appropriate to approval.
Since we're,
So it's, the clock starts ticking at the council, not at planning commission.
since we are not having the actual council meeting, we're having the work session, Bruce, if we take this off the agenda for Tuesday,
Right.
then it has not come to a council meeting, and the 60 days has not started ticking. Is
I
that
don't think
correct?
it's been properly brought before you yet. That's correct.
Meaning until it ends up at a council meeting?
I think that's correct.
On Tuesday, okay.
Isn't that the way you read it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so therefore, we'll go over to our public comment section. And is there anyone who, I guess we're going to go from the list of people who signed in first?
Okay, one last procedural question, if I could, on this? And we can do this when we get to it, but how do we go about removing this from the consent agenda, since there's very few times that we actually completely take something off? And do we do it now, or do we wait until we're in the agenda portion of the meeting?
I would do it during the agenda portion of the meeting.
Okay.
It's on there, so we're just going to get to it, make them. Okay, first we have Harold Katofsky.
There's two lists.
Oh, I guess there's another
Is that a
list
second
over
list?
there.
Carl, is there another list over here?
They just started one, yes.
Okay, why don't you give us that?
Sure.
If you could just leave it there so people could sign in and he would state his
All right.
name, that would be good for me.
Harold, if you won't mind stating your name and address, please, for the record.
Sure. My name's Harold Katosky. I'm the fire chief for Monroeville Fire Company Number 6, also the chairperson for the Monroeville Fire Chiefs Committee. And we just have a couple things we wanted to bring to the attention of council. There is a change of council more often than I can remember, and there are some items that have been discussed between the municipality and the fire chiefs over the past 4 years that we've gone through managers and council people, and we just feel that they need to be brought up for everybody to know what we're sitting back saying, hey, what's going on with these projects and that. One of the items that we have is last June, an airplane decided to crash in Monroeville, and it burst in fire. Most of you probably remember it, you know. Well, the fire department used a new fire truck that we had with foam and put the fire out. Well, we purchased the foam under the standard agreement that we have for the last probably 30 to 40 years that I can remember, and foam is considered a hazardous materials item that you use. And we purchased the foam, got a municipal purchase order, and the vendor still has not been paid. I understand that it was turned over to the solicitor to go after the owner of the plane. Lynette's been keeping us in contact with it, but I don't think it's fair to the vendor that we purchased the material off of. It's about $11,000 worth of emergency supplies that we used for the incident, made it so that none of the plane fueled, none of the stuff left the exact scene where it landed, and we put the fire out and contained, you know, the fuel in that exact same location by using it. We'd ask, and 2 managers ago and 1 manager ago, they said they were going to pay the bill, and the conversation, which I didn't know was appropriate or not, they said they were going to take it temporarily out of the fire truck savings account we're supposed to have, which I don't know if we have or don't have, and then when the people finally pay the bill, they would in turn put the money back into that savings account. But to this date, nothing has been done. That was from Mr. Little, and, you know, at this point, the bill still hasn't been paid, and, you know, it's not fair to the vendor that we had, you know, that we did purchase it from.
And this bill goes back to when Mr. Bond was manager?
Well, no, that was his procedure before,
Okay.
okay? But Mr. Little was the one that said, don't take it out of the operating budget. And we even said, if you want to take it out of, 3 different line items of the operating budget, then put it back in the operating budget, that's fine. But I've never seen, once we purchase something from the operating budget, it ever being reversed and put back in again. But we did have a purchase order cut, and at this point, we're just asking that council know about it, and between everybody, can we get, the company
Who's the
paid?
vendor?
You know?
Who's the vendor?
The vendor is Three Rivers Fire Equipment out of Turtle Creek.
Council, if I may, this isn't the first time something like this has happened, and it's been a practice that the municipality reimburse our stock of foam for hazardous material situations, and then bills the insurance company of, one time a gasoline tanker overturned, this time it's an airplane. Either way, there's an insurance company, most likely,
Right.
to invoice,
Right.
And
In the past, the municipality purchased it, sent, copies of the bills and the documentation to the insurance provider or whoever the trucking company was or whatever, and then they received the funds, and that was it. We did have an incident, I can't remember if it was 14 years ago or 16 years ago, that the solicitor at that time did have to go after and put pressure on a trucking company, but eventually it did get paid and the funds were put back in. We just don't think it's fair to the vendor. We, have a good relationship with, and we'd like if you could do whatever you can to help us on it.
Mr. Dice, I don't remember seeing anything about this on the,
I know. I haven't seen it either. I don't know whether one of the associates at the office is working on it, Bob Zinni. Lynette brought this up to me yesterday.
okay.
Bob's been out of the office today. I intended, as soon as I see him, I'm going to find out if he's working on that, and what exactly is going on.
There's usually a statute of limitations, because,
Oh, it's
here
long.
it is May, almost a year later,
This statute on this would be 4 years.
but still.
anyway, we'd like to get the vendor.
We
Still.
we
Oh,
did.
no, understood.
We have, in writing, made a claim to the insurance people for this, okay? But we didn't send them, we gave them a copy of the bill already, but we did it, not the municipality. And the bill's made out to the municipality, and we told them it needed paid. I believe the police chief spoke to the insurance adjuster and sent him a copy of the incident report and, all the different things that went with it. But somehow it's just, hate to say it, insurance companies keep money in their purse as long as they can,
Billing cycle.
So-
General question, is the foam just for number 6 or 5, or
Now,
How does that
my
work? You guys
station
share it?
stockpile, has the stockpile of it, and when his unit or my unit use it, we
It's
restock
declared
from
from-
my, yes, so
Right.
it's my
Right.
shelf, we store it for the Monroeville Fire Department.
Right.
So it's my shelves that are empty, it's just where it's stored.
So we don't have this foam at all right now?
Oh, yes, we do.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, we
both
do.
trucks are full,
Right,
and the foam has, on a phone call, has been delivered, but it's
Right.
never been paid.
Okay.
right. No, we purchased it. The one bill has not been paid. We bought extra foam, and we, the fire departments, paid for the extra. But when it's used for an incident, there is regulations under the Hazardous Material Acts and different things that, the end user, the person who created the problem is supposed to pay the bill.
Do you
Well,
know if the
thanks for bringing it
insurance
up to us.
company has reimbursed anybody? You've sent it, and no one has,
Oh,
neither the
not
companies
Monroeville.
nor the
Nobody here's
municipality
gotten-
has
no.
received a check.
No.
Susan, that no check has been received from the insurance company?
Do we know that they will reimburse?
Well,
I know that if Bruce takes them to court, they won't have much
Yeah.
choice.
Have they sent a denial? Have they responded
No.
to the bill at all? So-
I mean, of the incidents that have happened in the past, which were spills on Route 22, Business Route 22, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Sunoco
Remember the
tanker that
Sunoco
rolled over
tanker?
on 286.
Yeah.
All that stuff was paid. I mean, they even paid, the bigger spills even paid the salaries of the public employees, because I was there when they did it. But, oh,
Even the most recent incident that happened with Sunoco on Route 22 in Murraysville, Monroeville, we were involved in diking and putting what we call floating booms in the creeks and to try to, prelude any fish kill and everything coming into Monroeville. And all of our supplies from that incident were reimbursed to us almost immediately, you know. In that case, the Sunoco people were so good that they actually, the day of the incident, said, everything you used, we'll have at your doorstep the next day. And they delivered brand-new materials to us. So, I mean, there is regulations to make it so the town and the rest of us are not as liable, but in this case, you know.
Other tractor-trailer incidents have happened that we've had caused extensive cleanup and things like that, and their insurance company, well, I think the one Harold said we had to go after, but they ultimately paid, so,
Who's the insurance company?
I don't know.
I don't remember,
It's in the police report that Lynette has, I know that.
because it's an airplane.
Yeah,
I
it was
don't
an
know,
airplane, a
you know.
guy was a doctor from Tennessee or something.
So our plan is going to be to have Mr. Dice determine who in his office is on it and get back
Yeah,
to,
we'll be back there.
Okay. Well, if possible, can we, you know, get council maybe to, you
Pay
know.
the foam supplier out of the,
Pay the supplier out of whichever account, I know, you know, which way you want to do it. Manager was saying taking it out of the fund, one fund and take, you know, and then wait till it comes back in. I don't care how it's done. I just don't think it's fair. From June to now, the supplier got us the foam in like 3 days from when the incident happened, and now, you know, the supplier
what he was
hasn't.
talking about was Station 6 sold a second pumper for $65,000, and he was gonna take part of that and pay that bill until the insurance company reimbursed. I think that's what he was.
I think that's what Mr. Little was saying. The funds that were left over from the truck sale, the 2 engines, now were supposed to go into an isolated fund.
And he
that
was gonna take it out of that until the insurance
temporarily,
company
right.
reimbursed.
But personally, I don't care how it's done. I don't think any of you knew about this. Maybe Clarence, I think I mentioned it to him. So I'm just saying, I thought it was my responsibility to come up, because I know, you know, I hate to say it, Ron was nice enough to call and order it, and the guy's calling him all the time saying, you know, you ever gonna pay the bill, or, you know, what do we want to do here? So.
It's
I
11
said-
months later. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long
Well,
time.
thanks for bringing it to our attention.
So,
You have a dollar amount on that bill?
about $11,000.
11,200.
Yeah, 11,200.
$200.
Right.
$1,000 a month.
Yeah, yeah. 2 other items that I do have. The next item is kind of lengthy. I'll keep it short, okay? It's regarding the training center, our public safety training center. We have a couple other conditions to go with the training center that, that managers and past council people were involved in meetings and conversations. And I don't think it's fair to us, the fire department, that all of you up here do not know about a few of the things that were, I don't want to say promised to us, but agreed upon. And one of the items that we had is approximately, and this is a wild guess, about 5 years ago, Mr. Cooker had a committee that was working with the fire department and Manager Bond, and they decided that they felt, let's get a public safety consultant in here to look at the Public Safety Training Center. And an agreement was made that the fire department would pay in towards that study indirectly with funds that we had available. And in turn, the Public Works Department was going to put up a small shelter next to the training center, put up a bathroom similar to what they've built in parks, and put some picnic tables and things like that around. So in the middle of the summer, when, you know, the heat factor is out there 90, 100 degrees, and we're doing live burns, we have some area of shelter. And right now, if a bathroom is needed, the closest structure is down over the hill, in polite way of saying it. For the women, they have to go, you know, half a mile to a building, basically. So at that point, I think it was around 2008, 2009, something like that. Their agreement was Public Works was going to, when they had time that summer, work on this project. Well, they didn't have time and it didn't happen. So what we're asking is if Public Works doesn't have time to do it, then we're asking, can we look at putting it into the budget next year or whenever, that we can do something. This is something the guys on Public Works can build themselves. We're not talking about highly complicated type thing. I know Steve built many bathrooms in parks, but we only, you know, we're just looking for one. The actual sewer line was put in when it was developed.
I recall the shelter, I didn't recall
Yeah.
a restroom, but
Just to see-
unfortunately, we don't have our department heads here during the
Right.
meeting, or we'd be able to ask like Adam, so
Well,
we're
it's
kind of
something,
to figure out
if we didn't
where.
bring it up in front of everybody, then it's a,
Was this ever in writing from Mr. Cooper?
It wasn't Mr. Cooper, it was the manager and 3 council people that were on a committee, and I believe we do have a letter that we can try to find where
You said-
Lynette might be able to.
You said that there was an agreement. And
It-
when
it
you
was-
said agreement, did you mean verbal or did you mean written?
I think there was an email or
So maybe if we
something.
had something that we can refer
Yeah,
to.
there was something in regards to it. We put somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000 towards that study, and in lieu, we were supposed to have, Public Works was going to do these couple tasks for us. And we understand that, every year, less employees and less funds and that, but I don't think the group up here knew about it, other than maybe Steve and Clarence. So that's why we thought these are things that, we could keep going through managers. We talked to Manager Little after, Marshall was here, and,
So Mr. Little knew about that then?
yes.
Okay.
Next items that we have, when it comes budget time, we're asking for some consideration, and if council people are talking to any elected, federal people or state people that might know where there's any grant funds or that, we are looking to put simulated heat and fire into the training center. NFPA has recommended to try not to use live physical fires as much as possible. And what we're looking at doing is purchasing a training simulation type module made by Kitty Corporation.
Sorry, who?
Kitty Fire Extinguisher Corporation makes a training simulator that it actually puts propane or some type of, natural gas or that flame, and you have a monitoring system. Temperatures can't go over a certain temperature, and it's a lot safer than doing live physical burns all the time. Less pollution, of course, and that type of thing. We have been trying to raise funds and do things on our own, and it's almost impossible now.
Were there previous grant avenues from the
We
state?
have explored a few different ones right now, and most of the grants that we're going after have dried up. And now, there's still chances. I mean, I hate to say Mr. Erb might be able to talk to someone at the state level that he has a connection, and maybe not in next year, maybe the following year, there might be some funds that, community development funds that might be available. So we're asking for assistance. If not, can we look at maybe putting it into the capital budget when you start working on it in October or whenever? But we thought we want to address it now. We don't want to just surprise anybody. It is an issue. The same thing with vehicle fires. They actually have a simulator. It's probably a $25,000 item that you simulate a car fire versus burning real cars and having the pollution.
And how much
and the
does this
danger.
other simulation cost?
Last time we got a price on it was about a little under $200,000 for installed.
And the current burn, and it may have no impact, but we have those tiles that we have to replace on an ongoing basis.
Right.
I know they're probably individually, they may not be that expensive. I actually don't know what the cost is, but
About $20,000 a room when we retile it.
does this have any impact on that? In other
Yes,
words,
we wouldn't need,
that's where I was
wouldn't need
headed.
those, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be a controlled area.
And those
Wouldn't have danger.
tiles last, what, 5 years?
The training center, Paul,
10
was it
years?
8 years,
2
9
years?
years
1
now?
year?
No,
1 year?
we got probably 8 years
We got 8 years out of it.
yeah.
out of the
it's 8
first
years.
batch.
8 years.
The
Okay?
last ones we put in, we only got about a year out of it.
Yeah, for some reason.
It's a function of how often you use it.
Right.
Chief, do the other communities that train at our center, do they contribute?
And no, and very few others do. I'll rephrase it. If a community wants to come in and do a direct training of their own, yes, we charge, and the fee comes in under the training center budget. It goes through Doug Cole, or Chief Cole handles it.
The fire department portion of it? Because I know I always see Pittsburgh Police up there or whoever.
Any, no matter fire, police, or whatever, goes under the training budget itself. So if the revenue comes in, it goes under that one. Like Penn Hills wanted to have something on their own, and they paid us like $500 for a few hours to go up and do a test up there. And those funds came into the municipal, income. I don't know where it shows, because I've never been able to figure that out, but, I don't know where that comes in under. Is it just general fund, Susan,
There is a line within the training center budget for revenue.
for revenue? Okay.
I
haven't seen amount in there, have you? I was going to say,
Not lately.
I've seen the
but,
line item, but I haven't
Right.
seen an amount in there.
Yeah. The other items that we are looking to do is, it's called a roof simulator. It's just 4x4s that Public Works can build with probably, a half a day. They can build a little platform, almost looks like a tree stand or, that kids would have, that firemen should use to practice. And one we call a bailout simulator. It's just like womanized wood, those types of things. I know that we're holding on doing that, but I just wanted council to know that we're asking for some participation. We have, also have an issue that there is a drafting pit there that we need to use on a yearly basis to do our pump testing. And every year, we bring a contractor in to certify the pump testing so that we meet the NFPA and the ISO requirements. And it proved very worthwhile this time because everything was just, 10 years of pump testing the same exact way when the investigators came. There is some problems with that Paul's been working on, talking to Public Works. Even the municipal authority said that they would help us do a little work with it. But I think it's just coming down that the Public Works crew is just inundated. So if we can't get to it, it's costing us about $3,000 extra a year, not having our own pit to bring a portable unit in. So, eventually.
Does the pit leak, or I was part of that installation? I mean,
The pit, the way it's done right, the way it was designed, picks up the stones because the water gets thrown back into that catch basin, and the stones go down into it, and the pit's just slightly deeper than what it should be. So between those two things, it just needs a little cleaning up and a little changing.
When you do the pump test, they have to draft.
And they're
They
drafting the
They pick up
material
all
in.
the siltstone and product that you don't want in the pump. So then it cavitates the pump and it doesn't function.
So you
properly.
couldn't fill that to the flow line with concrete or something?
It needs to be tweaked a little bit
Yeah.
to make it work properly.
But, it might need a few days worth of Public Works, but it's been a few years.
We better hire
and
a couple
it
more
has-
Public Works guys then.
Yeah.
I agree.
You know what, if I didn't tell you about it, then how can I honestly say, that I know I've never told, Mr. Erb or Mr. Drumheller, you know what I mean? So these are issues that we've been sitting on between manager and people, and, we just want to bring it up for conversation.
Well, Harold, we have, you're aware there's the Public Safety Committee that you're a member of. So
Right.
that's kind of why it was established, to be
Okay.
your liaison
Well, that's
between that
great.
so it stays stable. So we gladly can bring all those issues.
Well, that's-
So you would have
That's
documentation.
good.
on it.
Only other thing we got is just ongoing maintenance, and I know Lynette can probably help us with it, but, just recently, we're doing a lot of training up there. We have a lot of volunteers, most of you know, we have over almost 300 volunteer fire people in the town, and, a lot of them are trying to keep up with the training, and we're holding a lot of classes up there. We do need some maintenance on the training center, and it just seems like we can't get it to happen very quickly, a month and we're waiting for some towels to be replaced, because you short guys or whatever it might be. So, last item, like Ron, if he could, to address his success, a little bit with the ISO stuff, okay? Thank you.
Just an update then.
Ron,
and
you
it's
mind
not-
stating your name, please?
And it's not a big one,
State
is
your name. Name?
Your name, Ron.
Ron Harvey, Chief of Number 5 Fire Company. The only thing, update on the ISO inspection, which they said was gonna be a while, is coming true. And, the inspectors that were here are done and told me, and, the gentleman at Number 4 that did so much work on it, that, he has forwarded all his work to New Jersey, to the head office in New Jersey, which is where they do the final grading. But they also do the map simulations, such as looking where each fire station is and doing time distance studies to major structures and things like that. So there's still a little bit of ways to go. They're talking about the end of August, but that's just to bring you up to date.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have, is it Andrea Noble?
Good evening. My name is Andrea Noble, 910 Garden City Drive in Monroeville. I would like to bring to your attention a problem that we've been dealing with a few years ago, 2008, 2009, going back to 2007, which is, and it escalated again, which is the ATV and dirt bike riding back in Glenwood Park and the adjoining area, the wooded area back there where I live on Garden City Drive. There's probably a handful of people that ride back there, dirt bikes and ATVs. They're coming in mainly from Logan's Ferry Road, as far as I can tell, on the tracks, but also from Penn Hills, since that piece of land borders on Penn Hills. And I can tell you the noise there is, it's not pleasant on a Sunday afternoon to listen to this when you're trying to be outside, especially with the nice sweater here. Not only that, but I walk in the woods quite a bit, and I have some pictures, some of which I took this morning, some of which were a few weeks ago, that I would like to show you if you would please take a look at.
I am this guy.
And,
I am this guy.
it's supposed to be no motorized vehicles back there, but as you can see, the paths there that are walking paths are more like mud pits now, and it hasn't even rained a lot. It just, rained last night, but it's once it rains a lot, it's almost impassable back there. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just putting it for
I'm
everybody.
sorry. Yeah. I have. There's been fences been put up to restrict the access of ATVs and dirt bikes, but some of the dirt bikes are still going in and out. Now, one entrance is right across from the house where I live, and I have called police. This is, I'm aware, a difficult task for police to catch any offenders, but when I see them, I do call. But the other thing is, like I said, they're coming in from other directions, and I don't see them. The only thing I know is when they're back there, when it's louder and getting louder, and they're closer and closer to, the housing area.
If you contacted Chief Cole, because there was one time, I believe, Mr. Hennison, and they actually had a detail over there, and they could, especially, it was, I believe, in the start of summer, I believe that could be started again. Have you contacted, and we don't have our department heads again here to be able to address
No.
with you. Have you talked to him again?
I have not talked to Chief Cole. I have talked to the previous chief of police, and we
Okay.
had a couple of
They did
meetings
a
with
actual
them.
detail, and they have them go in on certain times.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
So, why don't you, if you don't mind, I don't know if you want to work through your councilman, or if you want to talk to Chief Cole directly. They did this before, and I'm sure they would gladly go ahead and reactivate
Yeah,
it, if they knew
because-
there was an issue.
There is an issue, and what I'm afraid of is coming to school. The school's going to be out in a month or so. There's going to be more than a dozen
have,
in there, because
the,
it escalated in 2008, 2009. We had like 24 people,
The
and they're
issues, we
coming
have
from...
we have certain officers that are
Near the
employed in
phone.
the schools, and that's what they assigned them to for the
Okay.
summer. So, why don't you make contact with Chief
I will
Cole to
do
see if
that.
that can be reactivated?
Because we also have an ordinance about ATVs.
Yes, we do.
And, we can always fall back to that, because that's fairly strict. And if that gets enforced a couple times, the word gets out. It will. And we can put an end to this.
And a few years back, we had a trail advisory committee through the former mayor, Mr. LeMayo, and that was always an issue, because it's a challenge to pursue ATV riders, because then potentially somebody's getting hurt, whether it's the rider or actually the officer going after these people. Perhaps if you can catch where they're parking and unloading their bikes, you can kind of get them that way.
I understand.
And then we try
yeah.
to do passive barriers, some of the trailheads where you find them coming in, but it's a challenge, because unless you're really doing a long stretch,
Yeah, it's
they're
a
gonna go
challenge,
around it.
because you can't fence in the whole area.
And we try to, particularly like off of Abers Creek Road, down near the pool, Heritage Park, we're able to get guardrail that wasn't set up for, say, collision standards, because there's not a hillside, but just for Public Works to put it up to keep them out.
Well,
and that
just
seemed
to make
work.
it harder,
Right, but then they do find ways.
Well,
so it
they
is-
find
it is a
ways,
challenge.
that's true, but believe me, if there's 2 or 3 that get caught, the word will get out.
Exactly, that was the point.
And I only go in the morning just because I'm afraid to go in the afternoon when I hear them, and I don't go in because, 2008, 2009, I got dirt thrown on my back because one was just zimming by me, and it scared the hell out of me. So it's dangerous. And we have a lot of kids in Garden City. They go in the summer too. And God forbid something would happen, because when the leaves are out, you cannot see when somebody comes around the
I
corner.
don't
They
believe-
cannot see you
I don't know if
either.
anyone recalls when the detail was. I actually had a copy of it, and they actually sent the officers who worked in the schools to specifically do that. They do the parks, and they were specifically sent over there for a specific detail for that purpose.
I will
So why don't we
contact
con-
them.
And see if we can reactivate
I will contact,
them.
that would be great, yes. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Okay, next we have Carol, is it
Oh, it's Fugger.
Fugger?
Yeah, I live in Garden City as well. Actually, I was just going to piggyback a few things that Ms. Noble just said. I too live in Garden City, right near the Greenleaf Park. Same issue exists. And what I just want to make sure of is, I know that it was reiterated once before for us to call the police, which we do repeatedly. Anytime we see the bikes going in, the problem is once the bikes are in, I know people don't want to go in. What I'm trying to find out is it only through the police that we have an avenue to address the issue, or is there anything through Monroeville Council that can address the issue? Because the noise is unbelievable for any of us. I mean, I'm a homeowner, to sit there and listen to it, I think is totally unnecessary. So what I'm trying to find out is it just Chief Cole we contact, or is there anything
Are
set
you
by
referring-
Monroeville standards?
Maybe you're referring to whether or not it violates a noise ordinance?
Sure. Well, it certainly violates there's a trespass law. It specifically states no motorized vehicle. So just them being back there, they've already violated a law. As for the noise ordinance, I don't know. But just them being back there, they've already committed an offense.
When we have someone on private property and they call in about it, it would be a police issue as well.
But since it's
for
listed as
trespass.
Glenwood Park, I mean, it's a park. It's not private property. It's a Greenleaf Park, Glenwood Park. These are listed as actual parks.
Municipality owned, but still, you would call, if it's a private property, you call.
No, but I'm saying if we see them on park property, I mean, it is listed as, whose property is that? Because the issue we've had for several years
Well,
is
the
that...
police patrol our parks, so yes, you definitely call the police, and that would...
But is there any other avenue besides the police? I mean, does city council, do you guys put down...
You can start
is there
calling
any-
me on that. I'll get involved in that again.
When you say get involved, what, I mean,
I'll
I'm
try
trying to
see
look for
where
a
they're coming from, Who the
strategy.
kids are, if they're Monroeville people or they're Penn Hills people.
Yeah, they,
There's an area they can go in different directions on.
they can too. They asked you, and they had this before they had a details, what they work with the residents, and they asked you to find out if you can give them particular times of when
And
you
we
see
did,
them.
we've done that
And then
repeatedly.
they've already done a detail on it. That's what I'm suggesting, to reactivate it. If you want to work with your councilman to do that through the police department, they had a detail before.
So you would say my best strategies are talking to Mr. Ramsey and to Chief Cole?
Absolutely.
But through Mr. Ramsey, then, when you say...
I can follow through with
He can be your
Chief
contact
Cole and
person.
assist them.
Just to, so...
Figure out where they're at, what the situation is, and where they're coming from, and who they are. My kids did that for years, too. They were in that category. At that time, back in them days, in the 80s, they didn't pay much attention to it. And they were going further over the hill down in that their slag dump.
Sure,
And that's
sure.
where they did most of the riding back in them days.
Sure.
I don't know if they're blocking them from down there or what.
Well, whether they're being blocked or not is irrelevant, it's a trespassing. I mean, they're not allowed back there. So, since it's specifically marked as that, I mean, I just want to try to take the best avenue to address it. As Ms. Noble said as well, once school ends, it just picks right back up. So, you're saying now, my best strategy is contact you and personally contact Chief Cole to find out a
Yes.
strategy to
Yes.
address
So we
the
can at least
issue.
find out what's going on, because I don't know where they're at for riding. A lot of those kids around there I used to know, but they're all grown up.
Right, I mean, every
A lot of
year,
young ones,
there's a
they're
new
different.
generation of kids
Yeah.
riding back there. So, because what we're looking to do is confiscate some bikes, because that's what they did a few years ago, and then it all died down. And then a year or two went by, then it just came back. So, I know we had articles previously about that, how bikes were confiscated.
That's
and-
pretty tough for the police to run them down with a car.
Oh,
Nick
oh,
and
sure.
Rob.
Well, even just making their presence known by walking back there would be a tremendous help. Sometimes just seeing the police on the property, seeing that, oh, I'm back here, I'm not supposed to be, there's a police officer, I'll leave then. I mean, that's sort of the avenue we're hoping to
It
take.
sounds good, but sometimes it don't work that easy.
All right,
but,
so
yeah.
address you and address
Yes.
Chief Cole.
Right.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pam Barrasso?
Hello, Pam Barroso from 210 Step Drive in Monroeville, and I'm here this evening on behalf of Sustainable Monroeville and also the Monroeville Food Garden For those of you who don't know, the Monroeville Food Garden is a community garden that's in the rear backyard of the Monroeville Library. And I'm here tonight to share with council and the community a couple of events that we have coming up with Sustainable Monroeville and the Monroeville Food Garden, which we would like to be sure that the public is aware of and that everyone knows that they are invited to participate with. But before I do, I do want to take a moment to thank the Monroeville Foundation, who has given a generous donation this year that will help the Monroeville Food Garden for the second year provide food for local food pantries in the community. Also, there's a number of different groups and organizations that have been involved in the food garden already. In its first year, members of council and different departments of the municipality. I'd like to thank, as well as volunteers from the public, Sustainable Monroeville, the board of the library, and also we have the Girl Scout Troop 665 this year who's working towards their bronze badge. So there's two events. First of all, Sustainable Monroeville meets the first Monday of every month. So their meeting is held at the Monroeville Library at 6:30, starting this Monday with a potluck, and then it's open for the community. We'll be in the garden and also discussing an event which was held at last month's meeting. And then this Friday, May 11th, they'll be preparing, the community is invited out from 4 to 7 to help to prepare the garden for the summer planting season. There'll be tools available, or you can also bring your own tools to help participate in the garden. There'll be drinks available, and so we want to make sure that all ages and all different skill levels are aware that the garden is there, and to please come and enjoy it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Georgianne Woodhull.
Good evening, Georgiana Woodhull. I'm here as a new member of the Planning Commission, and I wanted to thank each member of council for voting for me and for giving me the opportunity to serve on the Planning Commission. I also just want to state for the record, I know that you've already addressed the issue, is when I seconded the vote to table, it was to keep that timber harvesting on the agenda at the Planning Commission, not to pass it on to council. So I want to take the opportunity to apologize to all the residents here who had to come out here this evening because of the confusion. I've been to a lot of council meetings where often there's been questions and we refer to the solicitor as to a motion or how to proceed. Unfortunately, we don't have that at the Planning Commission, but I just want to promise you to do a better job. Thank you.
Thank you. John, is it Patron?
Yes. Well, first off, I have to ask if I should even be here talking about this because it does regard the timbering.
This is a public meeting. You can. We're gonna when it comes on, we're gonna take it off. It will be back here after the Planning Commission if there is any other issues.
All right, thank you very much. Acting Mayor, council members, fellow citizens. For those of you on council who do not know me, my name is John Patron. I live in Turnpike Gardens at 4723 Burt Drive. And as a homeowner, I am greatly dismayed at this latest attempt at ravishing the natural resources of our community. The association wants to debase our neighborhood for their own personal financial gain. Many of our citizens enjoy the peace and serenity of our subdivision by walking, biking, and exercising around the complex. Children on strollers, families, and pets are constantly on our streets. Many homeowners park their vehicles on the streets, as most, if not all, homes were built in the 50s when single-car families were common. Today, that society mandates multi-car families, and the home designs of the 50s are not conducive to that reality. Of course, therefore, street parking is common. There is little room on Burt Drive and other affected streets for large construction or logging vehicles. Lawn care companies often park on the streets during the daytime hours as well, thus limiting space on the road. Mail and delivery vehicles also use the streets to stop and deliver goods. All these aforementioned activities occur on a daily basis directly in the proposed pathway of this project. And these are just a few of the tangible reasons for barring this project. Additionally, there are safety concerns for the power lines, the water lines, and a major natural gas pipeline running directly in the path of this operation. Any logging operations would result in degradation of the roads, create serious safety concerns, pose landslide and runoff potential, and contribute significantly to noise pollution, not to mention destruction of the environment and the natural beauty of our homes, our community. We have some questions. Who will pay for the road repair as a result of this activity? Is posing a bond which can be contested in court guarantee remuneration for the damages? How will we be compensated for the disruption of our normal everyday activities? What are the consequences of deforestation of the hillside? What are the human and what are the legal risks for soil erosion onto the turnpike? What are the concerns for degradation of the properties in the subdivision as a whole? These are questions that need to be considered by all concerned. Granting a waiver to allow deforestation beyond the 25-foot limit and contesting a failed soil test as well as slope issues on the site would be unethical, and it begs that legal action be taken should that be granted. In addition, this activity also violates the intent and the spirit of Article 1 of the municipality's timber harvesting ordinance. And we have an overwhelming majority of support for our residents. Over 300 people have signed a petition opposing this action, which we were prepared to give to you today. We may hold that back. I don't know how we're going to deal with that just yet. And finally, elected and appointed officials are sworn to preserve and protect our neighborhoods, and we expect and we demand nothing less. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Ralph, is it Greco?
Good evening, Council. My name is Ralph Greco. I live at 4804 Burke Drive, Turnpike Gardens in Monroeville. And we would like you to accept these petitions that we have. We have 323 signatures from homes in Turnpike Gardens. And we'd like to turn them over to Council and the Planning Commission, if that's permissible.
Would you like to submit those to the Planning Commission first?
I just want you to know, procedurally, the appropriate thing would be to take them to the Planning Commission first and submit them there, because that's the first level. That's where they should be presented. Planning Commission can certify those to us with their recommendation.
Council doesn't have to listen to them, am I right?
I don't understand that part. Certainly, we listen to anything you say. You mean we don't have to listen to the Planning Commission?
Right.
No, but they have an obligation to send stuff on to us that they receive.
Okay.
The appropriate place to do it is at the Planning Commission.
So you're refusing them?
No, absolutely not.
Why would you think that?
I don't understand why you wouldn't just allow me to give them to you.
All I can tell you is that you want to follow the proper procedure, and the proper procedure is to go to the Planning Commission like we started out saying. No one has taken a position in this case yet.
I understand that.
Okay, so we're not refusing anything.
And
You want to submit it to the wrong body.
Okay. Don't you?
Go ahead, you want to submit it to us?
Yeah, I'd like to
Okay, all
submit
right,
it
then
to you.
submit it to us.
Give it to the planning commission.
We'll give it to the Planning Commission.
Okay, that's what I would do.
Okay.
Point of order. Could he give it to the representative that's here for the planning?
Excuse me, please, if you
No.
want to speak, I'm going to call after I get
No,
through
he
this.
can't give it to representatives. You have to attend the Planning Commission meeting and indicate to them your position. That's
We
how
will
this
receive
is
it.
set up.
We will receive it. There's no point of order from the floor.
No.
There's, and
It's okay, we're referring to Mr. Greco, and then we'll go off our list, and I'll call for anyone
Mr. Greco, I
else
think
in
what
public who
I think what
wishes
they're
to.
trying to tell you is it's not that we can't take it. The right way to do it is to give it to the planning commission. I know it sounds a little crazy, and they're going to look at it, and they're going to end up giving it to us. But
And they're going to give it to us, and even if you want to make sure they do, you can, but that's where you go first.
We will receive it.
There's a lot of people that worked really hard for this.
No,
I know that.
Okay? There's a lot of people upset about it, too.
I believe that.
You know, what I can't understand is you came out with a new covenants this year, I believe. And first thing off the bat, they want to grant waivers.
No
Or
one,
possibly.
no one has said that there's going to be a waiver granted here.
We're
You know,
going to take this off our agenda. We're not going to even, we're sending it back there. We won't be addressing it. We're not doing anything right now.
Right.
Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely.
We're doing nothing. It's on there.
Give it to the
when
planning
it
commission,
comes
they'll get it back to us.
When it comes in our list, it's going to be taken off our agenda. Tuesday's meeting, we will not be addressing anything.
Okay, so what you're saying is the only thing we can do is give it to the planning commission?
That the proper steps is it should be done and dealt with, and a decision should be rendered by the planning commission, and then it comes to us. They did not render a decision.
And then we'll see the petitions.
Planning commission's a recommending body. They're going to recommend to us what we think we should do.
They should have never tabled it, is what it amounts to.
They put the cart before the horse.
That's exactly what they did.
They
They put the
shouldn't
cart
be
in
here.
front of the horse. That should not be here. They should have done it. They just didn't do what they were supposed to do, if I'm understanding Mr. Dice correctly.
Yeah, it's not hard.
I mean, 323 homeowners is quite a few,
I agree, 100%.
so...
You don't trust the planning commission to get it to us?
I would think you better pay attention to it. Thank you.
It's being paid attention to.
Thank you. Carolyn Ramsey.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
I'm Carolyn Ramsey. I am here as a mother, a wife, and a very concerned citizen. My statement, I'm going to direct to Mr. Jim Johns. Mr. Johns, some very disturbing information has been brought to me. It came to my family by way of the local small town rumor mill, if you will, that anytime you reference my husband, Clarence, or my son, Corey, that you refer to them as that black man or that black maintenance worker. I just want you to know, this is just FYI, that from an African-American perspective, anytime you refer to a person by their color of their skin as opposed to their given name, that reeks of racism. Number one. My second statement, it's not a statement, it's a question. Can you tell me what my son has done to you to be on your radar?
I'll answer you the best I can. If I made a statement like that, I certainly don't, it was not done intentionally, and I mean that. Mr. Duncan has been anywhere I've ever had anything to say about anything, and your son is by no stretch of the imagination under any radar from me. I mean that from my heart. I've gone to Miss McKinney, I've sat in her office, I've told her the rumor mills around here are enough to drive you crazy. That's just one of many, Mrs. Ramsey. You can take that to the bank. I've heard about your son, I've heard about the assistant police, I've heard a lot of stuff. That's not where it goes. Rumors are ridiculous. I didn't, and I do not have a clue. I don't even know.
Well, I'm sure, Mr. Johns, that you know rumors can get out of control. Rumors can get out of control.
And I certainly agree with that. I made the statement yesterday. Today is my fourth month. I'm ready to have a nervous breakdown. I mean that from my heart. I have. You don't even. I'm a good guy.
Well, you can imagine how I felt.
And I certainly, if I said something to you or about you, I would apologize. I would never do anything to offend certainly not.
Well, I would
I'm very
certainly
sincere.
accept an apology, but these things have come to us, and me, as a concerned citizen, felt that it needed to be brought
And I
out in
agree.
public.
I agree.
Okay, thank you
I
very
mean,
much.
And I have nothing against this. Now, please make things clear. My goodness, I do not. I know him by name.
And see, that's the exact same thing about you. It was like, who is this Mr. Johns?
Thank you.
We're hearing all this stuff. So thanks for letting me discuss it with you at a public forum.
Diane, we're having a little bit of an audio problem here. Can we just take a couple minutes here till we can see if we can fix it? I can't really hear you right now.
Recess?
Okay, yes, can we take a recess just for a couple seconds? I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Recess. 5-minute recess.
Okay, do sign in.
Say it again.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I'd like to resume the meeting. Hopefully our audio is working, but the okay that it is. I'm going to continue with our Citizens Night of the people that signed in. Mr. Rich LaPiccolo. Thank you for your patience.
Rich LaPiccolo, Rosecrest Drive. The greater Monroeville community finds itself in a unique situation, one that in my nearly 30 years being a part of that community, I cannot remember seeing. Can't remember this happening or this situation existing before. The municipality of Monroeville and Gateway School District, and therefore Pitcairn, not as a borough but as a part of the Gateway School District, both find themselves without a chief administrative officer or chief executive. I can't remember when we didn't have a permanent sitting municipal manager or a permanent superintendent at Gateway School District. This is not to say that the folks who are filling in on an interim basis, one of the assistant superintendents at Gateway, whose name escapes me, or Mrs. McKinney, who's doing a fine job. And I think with Mrs. McKinney, we have a tip of the iceberg situation. All the citizens of Monroeville, except those who frequent here, can see, as far as her performance is concerned, is what they see on TV. And when I say tip of the iceberg, if what she does on a day-to-day basis, hour to hour to hour, is anything like her performance here publicly, then you have a very good public servant and very good servant of council. Given that, I was wondering, since things are running in both Gateway and Monroeville, I'm not going to ask the question about the superintendent. I could go to the school board meeting for that. I was wondering, when are we going to see a permanent municipal manager so that poor Lynette, who's doing double duty, can go back to single duty?
We, as you're aware, have a search committee. We've been working long and hard. I mean, I think that's a goal of everyone here on council. I don't really want to speak for everybody. However, I believe everyone's goal is to hire a effective, efficient municipal manager, but do it in the quickest way, but not obviously taken back from the time we need to spend on it. I personally have spent a lot of hours as part of the committee looking at resumes and we did phone interviews, and we presented to all of council in-person interviews. We've completed those, and we had discussion, as I said at the beginning, we had executive sessions. Those were all the ones that we all met for to discuss the manager. We was what I thought pretty much close to a decision, and I am sure we've talked about rumor mills. We came to a stalemate at one point, because I don't know if our chair wishes to take over, if you want to correct me if I'm wrong, Vern. But our chair of the manager search committee desired to have a new manager come in with a full support of council.
Okay.
Being, for them, and, hard enough to come into the position, but full support. And that was his desire.
And I think, I mean, what we've done is we've had we've had interviews. Most of these executive sessions were interview series periods where we interviewed candidates. And at this point where we're at is we've gotten a small number of candidates that we're in discussion, and at some point, either through a special meeting this month or possibly at the next council meeting next month, because there's an advertising period that is involved, we will hopefully be in a position to make an official announcement. Right now, we have no official anything, because as you know from having served, we can't make any decisions outside of these chambers.
I understand, of course.
We had a few hiccups.
So,
over
and
the last few
that's where we're at right now. We have a small set of candidates, and council members are discussing it amongst themselves.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because, we had a previous speaker who talked with respect to a different subject about rumors that were flying around, and certainly there have been a plethora of rumors about this situation and deals and this Councilman
I'll
Gold.
gladly address that. I mean,
Oh,
I
okay.
actually am your council rep, so I don't really mind. You're asking the question, I would.
Maybe you should complete the question.
Okay, yeah. There have been all sorts of, rumors of a nefarious nature that have flown about the municipality concerning the process and deals and vote trade and so forth. And I know that's part of politics, having been essentially a predecessor of all of you for some time, as well as over at the school district. So I know how that works, but it seemed, at least at the rumor stage, and when you hear different rumors, and they all have a common string, and you want to discount rumors as much as possible, when they all have a common string that ties them together, and this common string seems to go to a common foundation, you begin to think that there may be more than a grain of truth that backs the rumor. So I was wondering if that could get clarified.
Well, what I would tell you is that the only time that I know of a forum of council where there's been any discussions have been these executive sessions. No decisions were made. Have there been individual discussions with people? Absolutely. Have I talked to people about their thoughts on the candidates? Absolutely. Have other members of council talked amongst each other? I'm sure they have. If there are any, and as you know, individually, we are allowed to speak to one another. There has been no quorum where we have said, this is who we're going to do anything for. This is what our decision is. So I don't know what else to tell you beyond that.
Okay.
I'm going to address what I know. Like I said, I think everyone would like to see this process facilitated for the municipality. However, when we came to pretty much close to what we thought was close to a decision of, narrowing the candidates down to a few, we reached a stalemate because, like I said, the chair's desire was to have a unanimous vote for the new manager, for them, to come into a full-fledged working council together for the manager. At that point, certain council members made a proposal with regards to doing it in that way, that dealt with the current interim manager and their removal effective immediately for them to do that. So that was, just so you know, that was declined. We're moving ahead, and hopefully that's over, and hopefully we have an executive session today, and hopefully that's all behind us, and we do what's best for the municipality and get an interim manager effective immediately.
Was that a removal from the position as interim manager to return her to her position as the executive assistant of the municipality?
I don't know. It was to remove the interim manager from their position of interim manager effective immediately.
Okay, because
It didn't go beyond that.
what I had heard, and again, I don't like rumors. I'm an engineer. I deal in facts. I sometimes play at law, as was mentioned last meeting, because law is filled with facts and theories, much the way engineering is. But I've also been in your position, and I've had to deal with situations where there were rumors, where there were deals or proposed deals. And what I heard, I used the word nefarious before, one of the things I had heard was that Mrs. McKinney was essentially a pawn, if not a sacrificial lamb, that the price for this unity was that not only would she be removed as interim manager, but she would be removed from her position as an employee of the municipality, which I would have found
Now,
deplorable.
I have to stop you here. This is a rumor, and I mean, are we going to address rumors?
Well, I mean, he asked a question, I'm asking for my part from what I know about it, and, I mean, you're out of order right now, Mr. Duncan.
Well, either the deal was about to be struck or it wasn't about
The
to be
only
struck. And
part-
if it's an empty rumor, then it should be
The
said
only
as
part,
such.
the only part of what was of the position.
The
And that was,
position.
that was to me, myself, addressed, so I can state that. I can't state anything else beyond that. It was declined immediately. So, and again, we've had through, reports of officials, we've had certain people address the way things happen. And this is something I have to personally say, I don't like how it happened. So, any person, I mean, you can address it with your council person, however if you wish to do that with them or not. But we're moving on to find a manager, and hopefully we will all come together on a decision and move in that direction.
Good, good. I'm encouraged to hear that, and it would be wonderful to see a 7-0 vote the way I was part of a 9-0 vote, actually an 8-0 vote on a superintendent. There was not unanimity because one of the members of the board was absent. But if the price of unanimity is what I heard, then I would say that that is a price too high to pay, and a 4-3 vote or a 5-2 vote would be perfectly acceptable to this citizen. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Robert Serafini.
Hi, my name is Robert Serafini. I live at 4929 Point Circle Drive. We are here all about the trees tonight, and since it has been declared what was going on, and we have to talk to the Planning Commission, which I understand is Wednesday, the 16th at 7:30?
Yes, it is. It's May 16th.
May 16th, rather, I'm sorry, May 16th, 7:30. I am going to contact them, as well as you, and extend an invitation. I live at 4929 Point Circle Drive. Ms. Allison has my phone number. Mr. Hugas has my phone number. To grant these waivers on the soil, I think without seeing it for yourself is bad. I mean, relying on someone else's. So I'm extending an invitation. Call me, come over and see me at my house. I will take you and show you exactly what we're talking about. And I think making an excellent decision like that, you know, if you're against me, you're against me. But I think once you see this, I think you'll believe in what we're saying. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we're out of here, Oak Point Circle.
Not quite.
Is there
May I-
another list from, or is there?
May I speak?
Yeah, would you mind handing me that list, please? Is there a list?
Sure.
And you're Mr. Greco, correct?
Since we were told that there was going to be a meeting on May 8th, and a council meeting, a lot of the people watching this are going to think it's May 8th. But instead, we have to have the May 16th planning meeting. And I just wanted to be able to say that on air so some of the people will get it, because it's hard to get information out that fast.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
If I may. I will be sending another public hearing notice out to all the residents that I have already done. It'll be posted as it was before, so everybody that received a letter for Planning Commission and Council will receive another letter for the Planning Commission meeting.
Okay.
As well, it'll be publicly posted.
Am I to understand that this was handled improperly then? Or-
Mr. Dice?
Good.
Would you like to speak?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And just to clarify, it
And
wasn't
I'm
the fact that-
referring to the fact that we were told that there was going to be a May 8th meeting that we were to come to.
Council's May 8th meeting.
Yeah.
We're going over our agenda, and it's going to be removed. There will be no items regarding Point Circle we will be voting on May 8th in this council chambers. Is that correct, Mr. Dice?
It'll be removed tonight.
It'll be removed tonight. It will not be on our agenda for May 8th.
Okay. And am I to understand on May 16th that we'll be able to speak pertaining to this issue?
They have a portion of the
Yes, there'll
planning
be a
commission
public
meeting?
hearing at the Planning Commission meeting on May 16th.
Ms. Deputy Mayor, can you make clear, they can speak tonight, it's just that it...
I thought I was attempting to do that. but-
Okay.
In fact, he spoke already.
Yeah, that's you.
Yeah.
Just to clarify,
You-
yes, you may.
Yeah, they will have a public hearing. They will allow you to speak at the planning commission. And anyone here, it's citizens night. You can come and talk about anything you want.
Okay.
If you'd like to, anyone would like to speak of it, feel free. But it will not be an agenda item for us once we remove it. And we will not be voting on anything with regards to it on Tuesday, May 8th.
Okay, they did post some signs for May 8th. Okay.
It's on our agenda as of right now, but when we go through this, we're removing it.
No, I mean, they posted them on the streets.
Okay.
Okay?
They'll change them.
they're going to get changed.
And that's what Mr.
Okay.
Hugus was
And-
explaining. He would follow up with that.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. And can I ask why they haven't posted those all through the area? Just on certain streets?
Isn't it, that was a mistake more so than anything else, the way it came out. I don't think the planning commission was trying to give it to us any other way than it did that would make it where it wasn't available or wasn't good for us to use. So it's going to be okay, and we're trying to fix it as we go.
Okay.
Okay, so we're not trying to duck you or anything on this.
Paul, do you know where it was posted?
Absolutely. It was posted in the vicinity of Point Circle Drive, Lawley, Burt, Aberskirk Road. There was public notices put on the utility poles, as well as 140 letters were sent out to the vicinity.
Is there somewhere in particular you're thinking it should have
Well, I
been that it
think
wasn't?
I think all the streets should be posted.
All the streets?
Yeah.
We did it within a perimeter of the affected area.
Yeah.
You probably can't afford for us to do that kind of posting, because we can't afford to spend that kind of money. So we're trying to do it as well as we can without going too far into it. The message gets around. And plus, it's going to be announced on TV and everything else.
Well, not everybody watches TV.
Okay, I'm sorry.
This particular
Well,
station.
you got the
anyway.
date now, so hopefully make that next date and we should be okay.
Okay.
Okay?
But I did
Apologize.
want to get that out to the public, and I thank you.
Thank you.
And I would like to say one other thing. I have never seen a nicer borough building as far as people helping me with information and receiving it.
We appreciate the
I was
compliments.
elated how nice they were to me.
We appreciate
Okay.
that. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
saying
you.
that. Mr. Robert Boyes.
Hi, I'm Robert Boyce. I live at 4927 Point Circle Drive. And you two are also invited to come over to my house anytime. I have a path going down over the woods in the back if you want to take a look and see the terrain and that sort of thing, 4927. So you have my permission. I was going to go and bring out all sorts of things against the logging. I will save that until the 16th. Again, I want to reiterate the 16th. I don't want to spend any more time. I understand, too, June 12th will be your next council meeting, and then you'll be voting on that. You are taking it off the agenda for the 8th, and you'll be doing that in a vote tonight to take it off the agenda for the 8th. Okay, is there going to be another meeting between the 16th of the board meeting and the 12th?
For council,
Yeah, for council? Okay,
our next meeting that we can do any action will be June's meeting.
yeah, which would be the 12th, right?
But we will have a work session on the
I said
7th.
that we can do any formal action.
So there'll be a another work session?
Just like-
Which is what this is tonight,
Yeah,
is
right, yeah.
Citizens Comment Night,
And that'll be when?
June 7th.
Okay, 16th, June 7th, and June 12th are the key dates for the public.
Yes.
And just to be clear, the Planning Commission could table this again, which means that it doesn't come to us on June 12th. You're more than welcome to come on the 7th and talk about anything you want,
Okay.
but it may or may not be here on the 12th. It depends on what happens on the 16th.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation. I've been there.
Andrew Richmond.
Hi, I'm Andrew Richmond, live at 4903 Lawley Drive. Just have a question about the timber harvest. To my knowledge, has anyone asked for a special exception through zoning? Because it's non-conforming, or I think it's conditional use of that land?
A timber harvesting application does not, the zoning ordinance does not address it. It's addressed under a standalone timber harvesting ordinance. The zoning ordinance does not address it.
I looked on the zoning ordinance and it said for type S, zoned S, non-conforming, I think it was non-conforming land use is permitted and I think it was non-conforming. And it said timber harvesting under there.
In 1984, when the zoning ordinance was adopted, those items were put in there. But under the municipal planning code, A timber harvesting operation is a permitted use in all zoning districts.
Okay.
Therefore, the zoning ordinance does not address timber harvesting. It's addressed by a standalone ordinance.
So it's been changed since the zoning ordinance
I
has
mean,
been in place?
under the new zoning ordinance, that's what it will reflect.
Okay. Is there a copy of the new one around?
It's in draft mode right now.
Okay. So any place timber harvesting can be done without going through, so it's all permitted everywhere now?
That's correct. It's a
Okay.
permitted use in any zoning district.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who may have not signed in who would like to address council at this time? Okay, we will then close the citizens' night portion of our meeting and move over to our council's work session. For the record, all the members of council are present, and the mayor, as I stated before, is attending a meeting. Go over our draft agenda. On Tuesday, we will have a proclamation for the National Police Month, and there will also be a public hearing regarding the Airport District Overlay Ordinance. Do we have any questions or comments with regards to the minutes of Citizens' Night meeting of April 5th or the work session meeting of April 5th? Any corrections or changes? And Sharon had indicated to me that the regular council meeting that's on here is not done. Has not yet been submitted. So do we have any questions or comments or changes to the April 5th Citizens' Night or work session?
The only comment I have is I thought at the last meeting, there was one, and I don't know what the period was, but there was one set of minutes that we received the day before that we didn't have a chance to review, and I don't remember voting on. I might be mistaken, but I think there were like 5 on the last
Actually,
agenda.
Mrs. McIndoe and I went back and looked, and they actually were all approved by voice vote. So,
I thought the
Okay.
motion was made to approve them all minus the one that we recently received, but we ended up
Right, and I thought we tabled that one
Sharon
piece.
and I both questioned it too, so we went back and looked at the tape, and actually was approval of all.
Okay. Oops.
Do we have any questions with regards to the reports of the tax collections? Barkheimer lien real estate, Barkheimer delinquent earned income tax, Keystone earned income tax, or real estate transfer?
If I could just make one comment, Deputy Mayor. Your council is going to see Keystone earned income tax starting on their agendas from now on. There will not be, of course, a follow-through date, but you will see that monthly amount coming forward each month now.
Do we have the comparison from the tax collections? I know it wouldn't be in the same line item, it would be a separate line item, but do we
Right.
have the,
Actually, if you go to the tax collection report, Councilman Erb, there's actually, the amounts are in there.
okay,
For the earned income tax, it's the second one down.
right,
And then, as you can see, Mr. Fulkerson actually put an EIT Keystone in there.
okay.
But Mrs. Worksman provided me the exact amount, and we're going to keep that on the agenda each month.
Okay.
Under our front page.
Great.
Meaning that it's a separate collector.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We'll move over now to our payroll report. Does anyone have any questions, concern, or comments with regards to the payroll? We'll go over to our list of bills. Any questions or comments? Mr. Ramsey? Mr. Duncan?
I have none.
Mr. Johns?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Drumheller?
Surprisingly, no.
Mr. Griesa?
No questions this evening.
Mr. Erb?
No questions at this time.
I have one. Sorry.
Why does nobody else have a
It's
question?
almost a clean sweep, but it was one that I had called for, and there wasn't an answer at the time, so I was looking to follow up to get the answer to page 18, ergonomic management consultants, to $100 entries for functional, post-offer functional evaluation.
Yes, and I do have an answer for you. That is for our refuse testing for our new hirees, and it's $100 for each applicant, and that is the amount.
I'd like to, I mean, it seems like it would be appropriate to talk about for the bills at this moment. Well, actually, you're doing payroll, you're not doing bills yet.
Yeah, we're doing list of bills.
Okay. This fire foam thing that was brought up, is it appropriate to add that to this month's list of bills? I think that I don't know whether I have to do that on Tuesday, whether I can do it today, but I'd like to see that added to the list of bills, quite frankly.
It's been 11 months.
It's been 11 months, let's pay them, let's do it. I think it's a minor thing that the,
But I don't think we can add it on Tuesday, we'd have to add it as an
well, and I don't know
amendment
whether I
today,
make a
'cause we
motion
have-
or how I do that.
We have an
but
amendment here, you would add it to the amendment.
I guess I would just ask the municipal, the interim manager to have it added.
I actually have the invoice in my possession,
Okay.
so we will add that.
So everyone agrees that's going to be done.
So
And that was the 200, was that 220,000?
No, it's 11,000.
11,200.
Okay, I'm thinking about the other item.
You're thinking of other items, right.
It's a little more palatable, yeah.
11,200, I believe, was the amount.
They had another one that they questioned, is there a chance that that can be?
This is the one that they want paid, that apparently for 11 months
Okay,
has not
right.
yet been paid.
This-
We're going to try to get it paid for them, and then they're going to do the investigation as where it stands with regards to the insurance company, who's getting reimbursed. So we're actually going to pay it.
Right, this is Three Rivers Fire, foam, hazmat, wasn't paid. Okay, thank you.
And is there a way of following that? Because that's going to be an insurance-related, maybe contested amount that might be coming.
Yeah, I'll make a report on that.
Okay, you'll add
Once we
it
get to
into
the
your
bottom.
monthly?
Yep.
Okay.
You're not sure if it's been denied or anything yet? You don't have any status?
I just frankly don't remember ever seeing it, but, Bob could have been working on it, I'm going to find out.
That was suggested to be paid out of a line item under the sale of one of the previous trucks. Is that true? What they mentioned?
Those funds were set aside as per that resolution in the future where you have an agreement that you'll purchase the truck. That's where you want to pay it from, but
He mentioned that, so
those funds are actually reserved for that purpose. I actually believe it's a general fund expenditure.
I think we'd have, we had a resolution that put that money aside. I don't know that we could spend it for
That's what
anything
he
but a
mentioned. I was
trust. I
curious.
understand, I don't think we could actually do
Yeah.
that. Because we did a resolution, we'd probably have to adopt a new resolution and.
Is that from the truck that they sold and got paid from after the fact?
He said it was the money they saved on the last truck that they bought.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Okay, it wasn't money they made.
Money back,
Saved.
$65.
Okay.
So we'll review what's underneath the agreement, just for that wording. Yeah, so we know where it's coming, where it should come from.
Any other? We have also, we have an addendum that was given to us today, the list of bills. Any questions on that?
No.
Or budget transfers?
Oh,
No? Okay.
No.
We'll go to our bids and proposals, and we'll give it to Lynette.
The first bid is the commodity bid. Council saw this in their packet last month. This was the wood safety surfacing that we asked for a rebid on. There is not a tabulation sheet in your packet because that bid is being opened on May 7th on Monday, so that will come to you in your Tuesday packet.
Okay.
Any other questions? Next.
2012 paving program bids, I'm actually going to refer to Mr. Hugus, if there's any questions on that.
Any questions?
Any questions for Paul on the,
Tresco is often The lowest bidder we have here has often been the lowest bidder and has been.
They have been
has
probably.
done a great job,
Last 6, 7 years.
Right,
They've
and
been the low bid.
and they've done a great job.
The only caveat I will tell you about the paving program is the unit prices came in lower than what we had expected from our estimate from November, December when we were preparing this. So you see the estimate is $925,000. Our estimate to council was probably in the $1.2 million range. So there's some money that we thought was going to be allocated to this year. What I was going to do is prepare a memo and give it to the interim manager to give the council of some potential roadways that I think that we should add on to the program this year because we have the money to do it. Give it to you for your consideration. It doesn't have to be a decision made this month because it would just be simply a change order once the contract is administered. And we can do it at that point in time. But there are roadways that, from our evaluation from the October, November till now, there were some roadways that showed some significant deficiencies.
And Paul, after the paving within a certain 2 years, I guess, would be sealing, and so are there any unsealed areas that were recently paved?
Well, actually, the next bid that you will see is the fog seal program, which we did not open the bid because there was only one bid. And if you remember, we had this problem last year because there is only one primary bidder because it's a proprietary type of material, and you only see one bidder. So I did not open that bid. Lynette has it in her hand. Obviously, we'll be asking council to open that so we can look at the bid and make sure it's in line. And my recommendation to you will also include, depending on what the number is, of additional roads that we could do the fog seal on also.
Okay.
So it's up to council if we should do open the bid, so we know what that bid number is for the Tuesday.
Well, that'll be decided Tuesday then, right? Is that right?
I just need direction if you guys want me to open, council would like me to open the bid.
I would.
What have we done? I don't remember what we've done
Just
in the past.
direction on
Open
court
the bid?
opening.
Yeah, open it
Yeah.
tonight, right?
It's a consensus to open the bid?
Tuesday.
Definitely
Just a
want
little
to-
direction on that, which,
That's fine.
Open the bid?
which would be fine with.
Right.
Okay, looks
Yeah,
like the
typically, we would open it
consensus
at
is to open
at
the
the
bid.
executive session, then we could have a formal recommendation for the council meeting.
So open it.
You want me to open it now?
I think you can, yeah. Everybody's here. You can do that. That gives Paul a chance to look at it between now and Tuesday.
All right.
Paul?
Fine.
Right, Paul?
Yes, sir.
Who's it from?
Russell Standard Corporation for project number 12-2FS for the fog seal program. A total amount of the bid is $68,238.87. And just to make note that a bid bond in the amount of 10% is attached to the bid as per the requirements.
And then the next bid is for the 2012 Seal Coat Program. There were two bidders, as you see in your package. I listed them as Suit Coat Corporation and Russell Standard, Suit Coat being the lowest bidder. They are new to our area, but not new to the business. So they moved here. They started operation up from Ohio is where they originated. They're predominant up in the Meadville area, but they moved into western PA. They supplied us with a handful of references from last year, which we called and checked on, and there was no bad reports for them. So our recommendation would be to Suit Coat for the $832.73.
For the last several years, this is one that Russell Standard
Yeah.
bid solely, correct?
That's correct. So there's competition coming into the neighborhood. That's a good.
So- Always
a good thing.
That's a good thing.
So do you think that's the reason why they're that much under the,
It could be, trying to get some business in the area.
how many recommendations?
There was 7, they supplied 7 to us. And again, I'll prepare that information, give it to Lynette, she'll pass it on to you.
The next item under bids and proposals is our healthcare proposals. If council could flip to that in their packet. Proposals were sought by Gleason Financial, our insurance broker. There's 2 pages in council's packet. I'm pleased to announce that at the very beginning of the negotiation process, we were about 19% higher than last year's premium. We went back to Gleason, they went back to the companies. We came in 4% higher than last year. Susan Worksman and myself said, let's get a little tougher. We sent Mr. Gleason back again, and we are now 4% below last year's premium. And I'm going to actually turn it over to Mike Gleason, who's here from Gleason Financial, to address any questions or comments that council may have.
Can you explain, well, I guess, first explain the general.
Okay, sure. My name is Mike Gleason, and every year, this is an annual contract, we go out to the insurance marketplace and try to get the best rates for the municipality as possible. We have a discussion with the administration to decide which insurance carriers are going to have a close enough network match that makes sense to go to. This year was Highmark, United Healthcare, UPMC. We also went to Coventry. That's Health America, who did not submit a proposal, and Aetna. Throughout the process, Aetna did end up coming in. If you go down to the large yellow box at the bottom, Aetna was about $6,000 less in the end than what Highmark was. However, for a couple reasons, we decided to recommend Highmark. And the first one is that on the retiree group, Aetna would not guarantee the rates for more than 6 months. Their rates will change in 6 months, which could possibly wipe out any savings that they have on the table. The other reason was that Highmark offered, and we asked everybody to do this, we didn't just ask Highmark, but Highmark offered a second-year rate guarantee, a rate cap of 13%. Now, that's not, your rates aren't going to automatically go up 13%, that is the cap. So it's either 13 or under. So for those 2 reasons, not to mention the matching up of the pharmacy benefit and some other items, it made sense, we felt, to stay with Highmark.
You've already answered the one question on the 2013 rate cap for the active group. The second question I have on the Aetna proposal is, it says may encounter provider disruption versus Highmark. What's the, they don't have the same in-network system? What's the situation?
Yes, that is the answer. The networks are going to be a little bit different, and the pharmacy benefit also, there's going to be some differences there. So any of those items are going to end up as, you're going to have to get approval from the unions and things like that for any changes.
What's been your biggest cost adjusted, to make that decision? Was it pharmacy?
Well, to me, the biggest issue was the retiree group for Aetna could change in 6 months.
Yeah.
So if their rates went up more than 6,000, you combine that with the other issues on the table, it didn't make any sense, especially with when we could get a rate cap in year 2 from Highmark, whereas Aetna wouldn't give any cap. So that was significant.
Okay.
And the other good news is, which was in the news, that Highmark, you'll be able to use a new facility, which might have been a real negative if you couldn't, but now you can. So
And what's the second page that you have here?
The second page is an illustration of what the program has cost over the last, since 2008. And what it shows, if you go down to the very bottom, you'll see, well, starting in the first mainly blank column under premium, that shows $2.415 million. And then you go down to the bottom and move over. What happens is the year over year from 8 to 9, you went to an HRA account because you went to a high deductible. And instead of, because of the issues with, instead of making the employees pay the additional deductible, the decision was made the municipality would pay the deductible amount. So an HRA account was set up. So what that account is the municipality pays those claims within the deductible. So you add in what was paid, and you'll see the totals over year, adjusted annual premium. So the final column, what you'll see is what we anticipate for the 12-13 year will be paid out under the deductible account. So that number is $277,000 in the bottom right-hand corner, adding that into the adjusted annual premium, or makes the adjusted annual premium. So the savings is still going to be, we're anticipating $97,000 year over year. That could change. It's going to fluctuate a little bit because that is an estimate, but it's a hard estimate because we know what it was the past 2 years. So, I mean, if you look between what you paid in '08 to what you paid what you're going to pay this current year, the rates for the municipality have only gone up around 5% in 5 years, which is amazing. So.
I know we talked about this last year. The other alternative to a high deductible is not a $2,000, but a $5,000 deductible. Was the impact, again, negligible last year? You thought it was a negligible impact overall? Was that looked at all or considered?
We considered it, but the impact would, again, be negligible. It's not going to make that much of a difference because you're still going to, pay out the same amount. We know what's going to happen, and it just, with the savings on the table, it seemed like the right decision not to change the deductible.
Okay.
So.
I have no further questions.
Does anybody else have any other questions for Mr. Gleason? No? Thank you very much for coming. Thank you. Next, we have new business, and at this point, would it be appropriate to ask that this be removed from the agenda?
Yes, is all of council in agreement to remove this item from your agenda for Tuesday?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the manager's directed to remove.
Please remove the item from our agenda for Tuesday.
Absolutely.
Next, we can move on to the resolutions.
The first resolution is a resolution acknowledging the private road names in the Spring Run condominium plan. And the resolution is attached for council's review. Basically, what this does is, we had some finger streets in the plan that didn't have names. So as we move forward with making sure those streets are named, this was one of the first projects that actually was brought to Mr. Hugus.
This is 12-1, Tim?
No. No, we're talking about the first resolution.
The resolution acknowledging private roads. Resolution number, this was taken off, that's why. Okay.
Yeah, that's why.
I apologize.
Go one
I seem
more.
a little disheveled
That's all right.
tonight.
Any questions or comments from council?
So this is where we commence and just doing what we needed to do some time
Yeah,
ago
I
with,
mean, if we step back a few months ago and we talked about naming
Yeah.
of private streets or unnamed streets, this was the first instance where they wanted, ordinances established as no parking. Well, we couldn't establish an ordinance on a street that had no name. So we never really acknowledged streets by resolution. So we decided, I talked to Bruce about this, and we should start doing it. That way we have a record of privately owned street names. So this was sort of the beginning of hopefully getting the rest of the street names done.
Any other questions?
Have these street names been checked with the county or with anybody else?
It was done within our internal system. I checked with Assistant Chief Pascarella as well as our GIS system to make sure there was no duplicates or near duplicate names.
Okay.
They're unique. Actually, one of the ideas was they all start with spring in them. That way, everybody can associate it with Spring Run.
Any other questions? Next resolution.
Second resolution is a resolution in support of the lawsuit filed in the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania, docket number 284, MD 2012, in opposition to Act 13. This is the Marcellus Shell situation that's going on right now.
Any questions or comments?
I think this falls on the presentation. I think it was in February, or when it was HR 1950, and of course, since then, it's been passed as Act 13. We've had regionally some people meeting with our municipality here, and that was before the end of March. This is so fast-tracked, and the major question is the fairness in zoning and totally the usurping of local control of zoning. I know that not every member of council may agree, but I know that you all joined me in writing a letter against the HR 1950. So I would hope that you join me as well with passing this resolution.
Are we essentially saying that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has no authority over zoning?
Well, where this specific industry is concerned.
Because, I mean, the MPC, which we just talked about earlier, specifically amended and changed things so that the timber harvesting, for instance, is now its own standalone item. It's no longer a conditional use. It would seem to me that the Commonwealth has the authority to regulate industry and regulate zoning. The other question I have is, has anybody read what is essentially a class action suit of municipalities against the Commonwealth? Personally, I avoid most class action suits that come to me from wherever. I don't see how they are beneficial. And this is essentially a class action suit of municipalities against the Commonwealth. Has anybody read the lawsuit? Has anybody read the briefing that has been prepped against this?
I believe I got that this last week. That was shared with me, with the same group of people who met here. I know you weren't here, but yes. And, in relation to how control of local zoning is concerned, and the fact that it can be and is already in the northeast part of the state, that there are compressor stations and there are open fracking ponds. They're not contained. They have had leaching. They've had, migration into the soil and into drinking systems. And the fact that you could take any zoning district where it is concerned here in Monroeville for wet gas, which is more profitable, then there's a real need to know what is there under the Police Powers Act. And, the only way you end up knowing that is being a local official. I don't think anybody in Harrisburg really knows what detriments there are to taking any of the number of properties, and I can show you them in a map here as far as how that would affect us, and know the prospects of putting a drill pad and keeping it 300 feet away from an elementary school, or 300 feet away from any structure.
That's really not the specifics of,
Well,
it
that
really
in fact
raises the
is
two
it.
questions. The question of the lawsuit is whether or not they have the authority to regulate. I would say that the MPC is proof that they do have the authority to regulate. And we'll talk more about it Tuesday.
I'm sure that we will, and that's a good thing to do. And also, I'll share anything that you might not have gotten about the law with you.
Any other questions or comments for today? Bruce, we're handed over to you for ordinances.
Okay, ordinance, the first ordinance is an ordinance establishing a tobacco-free zone at local parks and playgrounds within the municipality of Monroeville. Again, this is sponsored by Dr. Griesok.
Mr. Griesek, would you like to make any comments with regards to it?
Yeah, this was discussed at last month's work session, and a little bit of backstory on it. The Young Lungs at Play initiative is a statewide initiative to make our playgrounds and parks where children are smoke-free zones. No one can really contest that secondhand smoke is good for anyone, whether they are a child, an adult, or even a smoker. Secondhand smoke's not good. And this is an initiative to make our parks and playgrounds where children are, ball fields, non-smoking. And the backstory to this is something that's been tried in the past through the Parks and Recreation Board back in 2009. And at the time, they were trying to do it by amending Ordinance 2139, which is the overall ordinance that covers a lot of items in the parks. It was when the community park was built, and they were trying to update the 2139 ordinance to get things up to speed with the new community park, and they tried to put some non-smoking clauses in there as well. And it ended up being a problem because there was too many moving parts, and it ended up getting ultimately shot down. And since then, it's something that's been brought to the attention of the municipality through the rec department. Through Young Lungs, they actually solicit and they are interested in having us join this situation. And in order to join their initiative, I feel that a standalone ordinance would be the best way to go in order to cut through a lot of the red tape that amending 2139 would do. There may be a place to amend 2139 and update it for things that have happened, the new changes at the new park, but this is a standalone ordinance to make our playgrounds where children are non-smoking and to reduce their exposure to secondhand smoke. At last month's meeting, Councilwoman Drumheller had a lot of discussion about trying to revisit 2139 instead of passing a standalone ordinance. And after lengthy discussion, I was, willing to, in order to get our playgrounds non-smoking, whatever needs to be done, needs to be done. However, upon second thought, and I changed my mind in the sense that the main thing is, in order for us to join the Young Lungs initiative, I feel it's best to say have a standalone ordinance for it. Young Lungs then will provide us with signage to designate the areas as non-smoking. So what ended up happening at the council meeting then is everything was tabled. So what I'm hoping to do is to ask council support in lifting the table and then representing the ordinance as a standalone ordinance for non-smoking in our parks. What Mr. Zunick recommended was to then, if we have the standalone ordinance for, the very specific standalone ordinance for the parks, then to reference it from 2139, because one of the issues that some council people brought up was that trying to keep ordinances in one place for departments. So instead of having 3 ordinances for the rec department, there would be 2, which there are 2,550 something ordinances in the municipality. I think maybe a third ordinance for the rec department is not a bad idea in order to give this very specific detail. So once again, we will visit this on Tuesday. I hope I have council support in making our playgrounds smoke-free for our children in the community, and also for our adults who enjoy the fresh air and activity levels that come with our parks.
Any other comments? What did, by doing it that way, other than the signage, what do you gain from being separate and part of the Young Lungs?
As with joining any kind of, community or state action,
What are they offering to us? As a municipality, what do we gain other than the signage? I know you brought that up, but anything else?
We gain signage, and then we also gain the notoriety statewide that, this is something that we are supporting, similar to what believe Councilwoman Drumheller is presenting with the Marcellus Shale issue, linking together and trying to support a good cause.
See, that's what, I still don't think I understand this as clearly as I'd like to, because I couldn't be any happier for the objective that you have. You and I have the same objective here, I hope that everybody else does, which is to have this not only added as a rule, but to make it clear to the public what those rules are. So I'm not sure what the moving parts were that you're stating about ordinance 2139. 2139 is park rules, and so because that's an ordinance on park rules, and because it had the unfortunate history of having, in the last iteration of, somebody wanting to change it, they not only had the one thing, but maybe 3 or 4 things, the biggest contention being how animals should be leashed. And of course, there was conflict there. And so it didn't fly. It was something that was discussed at Parks and Rec's board, and their board recommended it. But it really, as an ordinance, can be changed one step at a time. So I'm wondering what the difference is to add all of the things that are from your standalone ordinance as a amendment to 2139, so that it has the same language. And the question wasn't whether it was more easy or it was actually whether or not we had something that wasn't redundant, that could be inside, the ordinance that's over the rules. So, and I think Mr. Erb said, modifying the existing ordinance would keep everything together. Well, sure, because instead of having ordinance 2000 that is specifically gearing toward the animal kingdom, and 2139, which incorporates all the rules, and by the way, it doesn't refer to 2000, because that's a little messy too, because as you update ordinances, you want to make sure that you're keeping in line with the proper number of the ordinance. But it just seems like an added layer. Why wouldn't it be able to be, why wouldn't your language be able to be amended in 2139? I still don't understand that.
Well, I think even just this discussion is an added layer. I mean, the point is that, as what we're trying to get done, you agree with it, I agree with it.
Uh-huh.
Pretty much every Minerva resident I speak to agrees with it.
Would they have agreed with it if it said, well, we're going to amend 2139, that we now recognize how important it is and essential at this point to have healthy lungs?
Well, I certainly feel that it's, regardless of how we do it, I feel that it's within my right as a council person to present the ordinance however I want.
Sure it is, but...
And if I want to present...
Do we do it for us, or do we do it for the public's clarity?
We do it for our children to have it not, smoke-free parks and playgrounds, and it's not about, my name's on it, your name's on it, her name's on it, whatever.
No, it shouldn't be about whose names is on it. It should be about clear rules that the public can understand.
And I think if you have signage at parks that say these are smoke-free parks, I think that's pretty clear to the public. Majority of
Terrific. You don't get the signs if you amend 2139?
No, I don't believe you would. It would be, this is a standalone ordinance, and it's the way that I want to present it as a council person. I feel it's within my right to do that.
It certainly is, Nick. Don't get me wrong. It is not that I'm contesting.
But it leads to a bigger...
Asking what we get and what we don't get, and this is why we're discussing this.
Well, let me
and
I appreciate you stepping in.
I appreciate, I think, I'm going to break this up, but at this point, I wanted to just keep everything civil, and you're two discussing back and forth. I mean...
This should be about just getting an objective done that we all feel
I think there's
is
two,
proper.
I think everyone's in agreement with the concept, and how to get there, I think, is what is being discussed.
And that might be a legal question, actually.
And you're looking at which way to do it. I asked specifically what benefit, if there's an extra benefit. I mean...
Apparently there is, because you don't get a sign.
Well, that's what I asked. So is there anything else? So one, do it as a separate ordinance to get a sign and be part of it, or two, is being inclusive as an amendment. So I think it's the same goals there, but which way it's done and what the, the pros and cons of each of them are. So, it is your right to put it on there, but it actually, too, it can be changed to do as an amendment.
I would like to present it, and like I said, on Tuesday, we hopefully will lift the table on the previous situation, then Mr. Dice, you can confirm that we can do it that way,
Yes.
and then we can represent the previous ordinance, and then hopefully this council will support that, hopefully, and I feel very strongly about it. Many residents I speak to, I think they all think that it's a great idea, and hope we can move this forward.
Oh, I'll just say that I agree with the objective. And if it's going to cause that much contention, I have nothing to argue over this. I'm just making my point of clarity so that, just to avoid redundancy. You said we had a lot of ordinances. I agree with you. So
Oh, how
that's
would
all I
you
have to
go
say.
about referencing it in, depending on how it was done? Is it 2139? How would you go about if you wanted to reference the new one, if there was one?
It has a
Would you-
section on it.
Would
Yeah,
you be
I mean,
able to put in the other one there so that someone could refer to it if they wanted to know about smoking? Because since the other one talks about alcohol and tobacco
You could-
usage.
You could put on the ordinance, see also ordinance such and such.
And how's that done? Is that done as amendment, or can that just be
You
added?
could do it as an amendment.
So that's
So you'd
something
be
you may
amending both then?
You'd be saying at the bottom of this ordinance, see also ordinance such and such dealing with
want-
smoking.
on this one that's being
Correct.
presented,
In the
not
preamble.
other one.
Could be,
not
it could
2130.
be anywhere. It could be at the beginning or at the end if you wanted to. It's your choice. My suggestion, you do it at the beginning,
Yeah,
because people begin reading at the beginning and they'd see it right away.
right. So you would probably change the language in the preamble that it announces what it's about, which it ties it to another number, and
Or
then
you
you'd
can
also...
do exactly what Dr. Griesok has proposed. I mean, you have all those options available to you.
Well, this would be amending the current one that you have, just saying that there's a Parks Ordinance 2139, if anyone would find out any additional information about other things, just so they can have a reference point, and not
So-
amending
So
2139.
not doing any change in wording to 2139, but
Correct.
simply...
Correct, because
in
see
the
also
new
doesn't mean an
ordinance.
amendment.
Yes,
In the new ordinance referring back to 2139.
And that's all it does. It doesn't amend.
So that if somebody's looking and they want to see the park rules, they would really have to know to look in the new ordinance as it relates to
But if we're talking about, the functionality of these type of situations, as far as being practical, regular Joe Public, he or she's going to be finding these things out when they're at the parks, and they're not going to be coming to the rec department to read through and to maybe see for sure if they are allowed to smoke,
Right,
or
they're not gonna
or if
report
their
it.
dogs are allowed to bite people or not.
Sure,
Which
but
is
no, but
listed in
future,
these ordinances as well.
future people sitting here may need to be, so sort of like the circus ordinance. I remember that. That was the very first one, and that came back from like 1950-something.
It just makes it easier if there's a reference. That's what, we've learned that from things we've looked for, and we're just trying to, I think that's the concept of maybe referring to it in there, might be able to solve all the
Just as long as,
problems.
is there is a tie, that's all. I mean, because you want to
Do you have any problems putting it in that current ordinance, something referring to the parks?
As long as Mr. Dice confirms that that's,
You
You can
just
do
did.
that. You could do that.
We already heard him say that, we asked him first.
I don't,
You
if,
you don't,
you
you
think it's-
understand, you can do whatever you want.
right.
If that settles the dispute.
Well, you're saying it's legal.
It's legal.
Okay, so that's your question?
Right. Is it,
It's
is
legal.
it necessary? Is it what's typically done in other departments for when
Well,
ordinances,
you're asking him to
ordinances
I've
overlap?
No,
seen
you're asking him, and that's.
Yeah, when
legal.
ordinances overlap.
I've
So-
seen it in other codifications in other municipalities where they do that.
If,
And usually it's at the end.
and then do you know if
And
in,
you'll also see it in pertinent statutes, our actual Pennsylvania statutes.
in ordinance 2139, ordinance 2000 is referenced?
No, in 2139, I don't believe, in fact, I have it with me, I don't think you'll see ordinance 2000 referenced. You had to know. This was the conversation, you'd have to,
Yeah.
think back to 2009, we had one.
What's the number of the newest one? Yours?
This has
Yeah.
not been,
Not-
has not been
It
assigned.
doesn't have a proposed ordinance number? Okay.
That's an ordinance.
It's an ordinance.
Well, if you, could the motion be made on Tuesday to approve it with the addition of that on it at that time?
That is an option, yes. That's a legal option.
If 2139, which is the main parks ordinance and rules, and ordinance 2000, which is also another parks ordinance, if they were linked together in that manner, yes, but you're saying they are not. And if they're not, then I would like to present the ordinance as is, as I originally presented it, and once again, to try to get to the bottom line of getting practical and getting our playground areas where children are smoke-free in order to reduce our secondhand smoke exposure to our children.
Any other questions or comments? No.
Okay. The next ordinance is an ordinance adjusting the salary system structure for 2012 lifeguards, sponsored by Parks and Recreation. Hearing no comment. The third ordinance is an ordinance setting forth the requirements for obtaining occupancy permits prior to the transfer of one and two family dwelling units, establishing inspection requirements for multifamily dwellings, establishing procedures for obtaining occupancy permits, and setting fees for these permits, sponsored by Director Hugus.
This is an existing ordinance with a housekeeping issue.
We're cleaning it up.
The changes were made in a bold, italicized, and underlined. There's only two changes.
Okay. The next ordinance is an ordinance amending Ordinance 848, regulating parking on Spring Run Drive. Again, sponsored by Director Hugus.
This goes back to the resolutions of acknowledging names of streets within Spring Run. These are the ordinances establishing either no parking or no parking between certain hours.
And it looks like ordinance number 5 is also an ordinance amending 848, regulating parking on Spring House Lane, Spring Blooms Place, Springtime Court, Spring Garden Road, Spring Flower Street, and Spring Grove Drive.
A lot of springs.
And I did it. By Director Hugus again. Last is an ordinance amending Ordinance 1443, the Monroeville zoning ordinance as amended, setting forth authority to establish an airport district overlay, and you have a public hearing set for Tuesday night on that.
Could there be just a little synopsis of this in advance, just for the public's sake? Just, what it's about.
This is just establishing rules and regulations for two airports that impact the Monroeville area. The first being the Allegheny County Airport, and the second would be the Monroeville-Pittsburgh Airport, which is located off of Logan's Ferry Road. What this essentially is doing is establishing rules and regulations for any obstructions that could potentially impact the airspace of these airports. And it also gives them a option to go to the zoning hearing board if they want to appeal the application that they have to submit to the Bureau of Aviation as well as the Allegheny County Airport Authority. If they request a variance, there are different options that the Bureau of Aviation or the Allegheny County Airport Authority would recommend, such as putting lighting on a structure or lowering the structure to come into compliance with this ordinance. So basically, if anybody has an existing structure, potentially to erect a structure, or even a natural occurring structure such as a tree or something like that, this will give them the rules and regulations that they have to abide by.
Okay, thank you.
We are also eligible. I've been working with John Serpa from the Allegheny County Airport Authority, and we're one of 30 communities that's participating in this hazard overlay district. This will be eligible for grant money if we do pass this particular ordinance.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? No. Okay, we're going to go over now to our reports of officials. And we'll go to the interim manager first, since you have the most on the list.
Okay, the first item is council's permission to place a street light at pole, or between 922 and 924 Harvard Road. This is a petition that Councilman Griesbach brought forward, and he is asking for permission for that street light.
This area was brought to my attention by a few residents, and an overwhelming amount of people signed this petition, 33 to 35 people. It's on Harvard Road, which is a fairly well-traveled street, and there were some safety concerns, both with vehicle traffic in the evening time, and also the crime that has been occurring. So, once again, an overwhelming amount of signatures, and that's what we're presenting.
Item number 2 is council's permission to place a full-page ad in the program booklet for the National Convention of the 82nd Airborne Division Association in the amount of $100. This is going to play in conjunction with them actually coming into our community in August at our convention center. So the mayor asked that I place this on for council's approval.
That's a pretty big show, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
3,500 family involvement, yes.
If you're looking for guidance, I would say, go ahead, do it.
Okay, we'll go to our elected officials. Mr. Erb, we'll start with you. Do you have any report?
First, I'd like to say that the library is having, it was tonight, it'll be tomorrow night, and then on Saturday, a book sale. So if you're interested in using some, or buying some gently used books, helping out the library does have a book sale this weekend. Check it out. Second thing I'd like to say is thank you to all of the residents that came out to speak tonight. Regardless of the reasons they came out, some of them came out, as you know, for the timbering, and then there were other things that people came out. I'm glad that people came out, participated, and it's important that you do that. This is your government, and so thank you for doing that. We're into the 5th month, so using that whole concept, if Ward 5 would show up this month, that would be a great thing. It's easy to remember. It's the 5th month. Next month is 6th, but you're always welcome to show up regardless of the month and regardless what your ward is. I'd encourage you all to be involved. So thank you and good night.
Councilman Graysock?
Yes, through the Parks and Recreation Department, they have been doing some renovations of the dog park. They're actually going to be sectioning off areas for smaller dogs and larger dogs. This was being paid for through a grant that was that they received. So they are actually going to be closed a couple days coming up, but hopefully by the end of next week, weather depending, everything will be up and running there, so there won't be as many problems at the dog park between the different size animals. So that's at Heritage Park. As was discussed earlier, hopefully this council's on track with hiring a new manager. I think we are pretty close to making that decision, which I think is a very important decision for Monroeville, and to clear up any kind of confusion that I had some questions about past couple weeks. This council or any council is who is able to hire the new manager. That's who does it. Also, this council can fire the manager, but as far as employees, council does not interact with that. Terminations are handled through the manager's office, and that was some questions that I received. But hopefully, we are on track with getting a new manager hired. So stay tuned. Thanks.
Councilwoman Drumheller?
Yes, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to thank Pam Barroso from Sustainable Monroeville for announcing about the garden. Of course, we all look forward to the second year. And anyone who would like to join on May 11th for, I just called it Can You Dig It? But basically, we're going to get a little digging of that row of the garden. We're using the same 2 rows. And it'll be nice because it kind of kicks off the things that will happen in the next couple of weeks. And by the end of the month, we should have year number 2 of the garden started. So that is good. And I wanted to also go over some things for the couple of special events, great information on this month here for the month of May in the Monroeville Senior Center, and also some fundraising things that they're doing. The May and June newsletter, the light blue one, is out. Chock-a-block with all kinds of stuff in there for a really active month into June. So we're getting spring started off. And I wanted to talk about Health Talk. This is a program Wednesday, May 16th at 10 a.m. at the Senior Center. Turning 65 and have questions about your Medicare benefits and supplement insurance. Are you a senior that has questions about your current coverage? This seminar will explain all. And in order to do this, please sign up at the Senior Center office by Wednesday, May 9th. So that's next Wednesday. So that's the health talk. The next thing I wanted to mention from the Senior Center events is something I think, I'm real interested in this. This is called CarFit. This program is Tuesday, May 22nd, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It is sponsored by Pitt, the University of Pittsburgh, and AAA are getting together, and they're joining to, well, keep people safe on the roads. And one of the best ways you could do that is to come to the Senior Center, and after signing up for this, learn as you sit in your seat, if you happen to be short, how to keep your belt from choking your neck. That's a problem on me. But also, what's the proper way to angle your mirrors so that you could actually be safer on the road? Each car will be given a 15 to 20-minute review to make sure seat belts and mirrors and seats and steering wheels are properly adjusted for each senior driver. And the pre-registration on this is required. So please sign up at the Senior Center's main office. They want you to do that by the 15th of May. And and also the little brochure that comes with it is very informative. CarFit, the sponsors are here, and a lot of good information in there for that program, May 22nd. And I think that leaves another mention here for, this is something I want to make clear about. It is a fundraiser for the Senior Center. This is a Max and Irma's presents. So Max and Irma's restaurant in Monroeville is going to have a fundraiser for the Senior Center. Now, this is going to be specifically on June the 7th. And it's not 20% off anything. What it is you go to eat at Max and Irma's, 20% of your food and beverage, whatever you get, goes and benefits the Senior Center. To do this, you need to present a ticket, okay? You present this ticket to your server. So here's the ticket to find out more about it. 20% of your food and beverages to go or dine will benefit Monroeville Senior Center. And again, it's June 7th, so I thought it would be good to mention it.
We can put those at the municipal building.
And these tickets will be available not only at the Senior Center, but here at the municipal building.
Absolutely.
Great.
Can we email a PDF to everybody? Is that possible?
To the
PDF files? Excuse me.
Email like all municipal employees.
Absolutely.
To let them know about it. Sure, sure, absolutely.
Print off the coupon then.
Anyway, mhm.
Be great.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I guess you could print out the coupon. Yeah, why not? But you have to present it. So, make sure they get that. Make sure you go out June 7th and eat at Max and Irma's. And that's all I have.
Councilman Johns?
Yes, I'd just like to say thanks to all the folks from the Fourth Ward that showed up on cleanup day. We got a little wet, and it was pretty successful. We did get wet. Northern Pike Hill really looks great. Secondly, up for all you guys from Turnpike Gardens that showed up tonight, hang in there. It'll get better. That's all I have.
Councilman Duncan?
I would just like to apologize to the residents of the Turnpike Gardens for the mishap that took place tonight. That's all I have.
Councilman Ramsey?
It was a good night for the guests and all the people that came in. It's good. Maybe they'll come back next month. Thank you.
Mr. Dice?
I have nothing.
I want to thank everyone who came out for the Jack Sedlec Cleanup Day, and I would, at this point, we have an executive session. I'd like to ask for a motion to go into recess for the executive session, and the items being land acquisition, IT department, refuse negotiations, and personnel issues.
So moved.
Second.
We're just adjourning to go into executive session.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Get a
And
hold of the place.
Recess.